Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'm reviewing the Feelgrounds Highrise Knit. So 3 pros that I have with this model is number 1, I think if you're on the market for a really good looking high top barefoot shoe that is pretty simplistic in construction, this is an awesome model to look into. I think at times it can be really hard to find really good looking high top barefoot shoes, and I know there's not a ton on the market, so this is a really good model to explore if that is something that you are trying to get more into. So I like to rotate my high top shoes and go from like a Nike Blazer to a Converse high top to a Vans Skate High and then rock these. It gives me a little bit of contrast in the feel and fit of those shoes, and I like this shoe a lot in regard to daily wear because the upper is very simplistic. There's not a ton of branding on the shoe. We have a tiny bit of branding back here on the heel and the tongue, but that's pretty much it. It makes this shoe very easy to wear with shorts, pants, and then in a lot of different settings. So you can wear these casually, semi-formally, and even formally, and they look the part. So I like that a lot about this shoe. The second pro with this model is the knit upper. So with knits, it can be a little bit dicey at times in high top shoes because over time they can stretch out a little bit, but the knit in this model doesn't feel like it's gonna stretch out too quickly. It has a nice layer to it, and back here on the heel, we do have additional layers and padding, so it does have a little bit more structure than the actual body of the shoe up here in the forefoot and midfoot. So I think if you're taking care of these and you're putting them on correctly, this knit shouldn't stretch out too soon. And with that layered material and how thick it is, I do think this could be a really good shoe for all season wear. The knit breathes really well for warmer days, and it's heavy enough, I think, to give you enough warmth on colder days, especially if you're wearing the right socks for the day and the temperature at hand. My third pro with this model is that if you are on the market for a shoe that is made with more sustainable materials, this could be a really good option to look into. The sole of this shoe is made with a recycled TPE, and then the upper lining and the laces are made with a recycled PET. So if you are very conscious of the materials used in your shoes, that could definitely be a win with this model and could justify why they can be an awesome option for the context of your needs. But now let's talk about a couple of cons that I have with the Feelgrounds Highrise Knit. So 2 potential cons that I could see folks having with the Highrise Knit is number 1, this model's long-term sole durability. So with Feelgrounds shoes, they do not come with insoles. So they have this finished internal construction and the soles are super thin. The sole stack height in this model is 5 millimeters. Now that's great for giving you a barefoot shoe feel, or a barefoot feel for that matter, but that's not always the best for a ton of mileage and durability in that context. So 2 tips if you plan to invest in this model and really get the most out of them is to, number 1, rotate this shoe in with your other shoes. That will space out the miles you're putting into them and give them a longer life. Number 2 is, I would say, avoid wearing this shoe if you can in rainy, damp, and wet settings. Because that sole is so thin, you don't really want to get a lot of water into the shoe because it can corrode that internal construction. So just to prolong this shoe's lifespan and to hedge your bets to get most out of your investment, I would suggest using those 2 tips with this model. The second potential drawback that I can see folks having with this model is that it can be a pain in the butt to get on at times, especially if you're wearing thicker socks. So I could see this being a problem in the winter when people are wearing thicker socks with their shoes and trying to get this model on. You're definitely gonna have to unlace at least 3 to 4 eyelets to pull this guy on, and that's something that could always be a little bit hit or miss with high top shoes. Like for example, my Noble high tops, they're always a pain to get on, but I could slip my Converse right on. So it does vary a little bit, and that's because the knit boot of this shoe does sit a little bit more narrow around the counter back here, which I like for appearance wise, but when you're putting the shoe on, I would highly suggest unlacing it properly, pulling it on, and then that way you're not jamming into this boot and breaking down this knit construction. So those are just a few tips that I have with the cons of this model to make sure you're getting the most out of your investment if you decide to invest in the Highrise Knit. But now let's talk about the performance of this shoe. So when chatting on performance in the Highrise Knit, I'm going to tweak this section slightly because this is not a performance focused barefoot shoe. I'm only going to talk about how this shoe does for casual lifting, daily wear, and walking. Now, in regard to casual lifting, so if you're wearing this shoe, for example, on a daily wear basis and you want to wear them to the gym, how do they do? Overall, I really like this model for lifting. And what I would suggest is trying to use them sparingly. So even though I really like them, I try to limit how much I'm wearing them for training because I don't want to stretch out that knit, and I really want this model to last because I like the appearance of this shoe and I want it to go the distance in regard to how long it lasts me basically through the seasons. But with lifting, I really like the width of the forefoot, how easy the sole is to move so it articulates really well, and you get plenty of stability with this model because the stack height is only 5 millimeters. So if you are planning to lift in the shoe, you should find that it's plenty stable for weight training, and I would suggest trying to limit how much you're wearing them in the gym if you want them to go the distance in regard to their knit upper and just their overall construction. Now, on a daily wear and walking basis, I really like this shoe, and I think this is gonna be a good model for those who are already acclimated to barefoot shoes. Because these do not come with an insole, what I would suggest doing if you are a beginner and you plan to invest in the shoe is buying a separate insole. So that way you have a little bit of cushion to acclimate with this model too, and then that way you're not just throwing your feet into the deep end in regard to going from like a cushion shoe to a true barefoot shoe where you have pretty much no material separating the foot from the floor. That will make this shoe a little bit more comfortable. But when it comes to daily wear and walking, I really like this shoe. I touched on this in my first pro, but man, the appearance is really nice with this model, and I like that I can wear it pretty much for all seasons. Now, what I would say though, is in the winter months, if you are prone to getting a little bit colder feet like myself, and hands for that matter, you might want to have an insole in this shoe just to give you a little bit more separation from your foot and the ground, especially if you are outdoors. But as a whole, this model I think excels for daily wear and walking, and it looks awesome. Now, again, when it comes to how often you're wearing them, if you want them to last, space them out a little bit or try to avoid like walking a ton of mileage in them just to prevent any sole breakdown, and that way you'll get the most out of this model for your money. All right, so now let's answer the question, who should invest in the high-rise knit? So if you are somebody who wants a high top barefoot shoe primarily for daily wear that you can wear pretty much in every season, I think this is a really good model to look into. And do note, I think it's gonna be better for folks who plan to rotate it in with their shoe lineup. That will make this model last a lot longer. But if you're looking for a model for training, I would say definitely look into more performance focused shoes, but you could lift in the shoe casually. However, I would suggest keeping an eye on the sole and the knit in the shoe if you are lifting in them regularly, just to prevent any breakdown with this model. So when chatting on the sizing and fit in the high-rise knit, I have a couple of thoughts. So you're gonna wanna go true to size if you normally have room at the end of your toe box in your shoes. So I went true to size in this model, and I have about like 0.3 inches at the end of my toe box. So just enough to where I'm not feeling cramped, but also not so long to where I'm swimming in this model. Now in your shoes now, if you are feeling a little bit cramped at the end of your toe box, then you'll wanna size up a half size in the shoe, because I do think the length runs a little bit short in this model, but not enough to make everybody size up a half size. So I would say use those sizing parameters before making your call on the size for the shoe. And obviously if you have any questions on sizing as well, or additional questions for that matter, hit me in the comments below. So when it comes to the price of the high-rise knit, you can expect to pay $129 USD. Now, do I think that price point is fair for this model? Yes and no. I think it's a fair price point if you just want this shoe for daily wear and maybe a casual lift here and there, because it is so simplistic in nature. If that's your style, I think you will get a lot out of this model. But if you're looking for a performance focused shoe, I would say pass on this model and find something that's a little bit more specific to your wants and needs. All right, so now let's go over the weight, insole, and heel to toe drop in the Feelgrounds Highrise Knit. So for my size 10 model here, so 43 EU, we have a weight of 9.20 ounces. This model has a 0mm heel toe drop, and once again, the shoe does not come with an insole, so if you are a beginner to barefoot shoes, you may want to invest in an insole just to give the shoe a little bit more cushion to ease you in to the acclimation process. So when chatting on the construction of this model, it's pretty simplistic in nature, which I actually think is a good thing. So we have a knit upper here that is made out of recycled PET, and then we also have a lining in this shoe, and the laces are made of recycled PET as well. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eyelets that go up. They are metal eyelets for additional security. The boot back here has a little bit of padding, so it does have a little bit more structure to it. And then we have some Feelgrounds branding back here on the heel, and then some Feelgrounds branding here on the tongue. We also have a loop on the tongue to help secure it, and I honestly wear my shoes pretty loose like this, and the tongue doesn't slide, which I'm a fan of. For the sole construction, we have a relatively thin sole here, so it moves really well. That is made with recycled TPE, and we have a lug patterning on the bottom. The stack height of this shoe is 5mm, so it is relatively thin in nature. And then once again, we do not have an insole in the shoe, but the internal portion of this shoe is finished. Outside of those features, that's pretty much the gist of this model's construction. If you have any questions on this model and the construction details that go into it, hit me in the comments below. All right guys, that wraps up my review of the Feelgrounds Highrise Knit. Overall, I really enjoy this shoe, and I'm a simple dude with my style, so this model really resonates with me. If you have any questions about this model, hit me in the comments below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, guys, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.